two massive movies, Avatar and Avatar 2. Two hot takes. Or at least I consider them hot takes, and you might not. I guess we'll find out. If you like what you see, consider subscribing. I'd appreciate it. Let's have a hot takes discussion about Avatar. I think it would be pertinent to offer a spoiler warning that Avatar 1 and 2, there will probably be spoilers for both of them. So if you haven't seen them and you're one of the 50 who haven't, then maybe you don't watch this. Otherwise, I'm assuming you don't care. So let's get into this. We're going to start with Avatar 1. And I'm not so sure that this is a hot take for a lot of people. Some people might think I'm crazy. But I rewatched Avatar 1 when Avatar 2 was coming out this year. So it was about a week before. I rewatched Avatar 1 a few days before going to the theater to watch Avatar 2. And my original thoughts on Avatar 1, I think a lot of people probably held the same thoughts. So my original thoughts was I thought it was an amazing film in terms of visuals, and I thought the characters and the story were interesting. But that was back when I first saw it, and I hadn't seen it since it first came out, so I didn't really remember how I was thinking about it, but that's how I felt about it going in. When I rewatched it, I realized I didn't remember any of it, and so I kind of felt pretty blind going in. I mean, I remember there were Pandorans, the blue people, and I remembered the classic, like, military invasion and the natural inhabitants defending the invasion, I guess, and the whole resources versus conservation type story that's so prevalent in a lot of media. So, going into it, I expected, I'll like this movie. What I didn't expect was realizing upon rewatch, it was actually one of my favorite movies of all time. I was blown away. I remembered liking it, and I used to debate with a few people about how it wasn't actually overhyped, but it was really good. It might not be the best movie of all time, but I thought it was a strong movie. And on the rewatch, I was like, wow, that was a really good movie. It had spectacular visuals. No one's going to argue that. I thought the characters are all very interesting in the first movie. I think there's an argument to be made that although they're interesting, they're, for the most part, I think all of them are very cliched and tropey. And that's okay. But I actually think they did a decent job with them for being cliches and tropes. I touched upon the classic storyline with the military invasion and valuing resources and money over nature and its inhabitants. I think this is a very obvious correlation with a lot of what happens on Earth, especially in third world countries, with the first world countries going in and not caring about what happens to the citizens there. You know, the diamond trade was a good example of that. So because of this story, the times that the military were actually succeeding and destroying the environment. So when they went in and destroyed all these environments and special buildings, the tree, it was very emotional. I was surprised at how emotional I felt and how sad I was and how bad I felt for the Pandorans. And I don't remember feeling that before. But man, this movie hits. And I was just blown away by that. And so let's transition into Avatar 2 discussion. Upon the rewatch of Avatar 1, I was super excited. Very stoked. I saw the trailer. I was like, oh man, I can't wait. In real life, when it comes to nature, my most fascinated thing is ocean life. I love watching anything to do with the underwater, the ocean, the fish, the sea life. I just find it fascinating. And so I was so excited for Avatar 2 because we're going into the water. And I was like, wow, this is going to be great. I bet the visuals are going to be amazing. I can't wait to see what kind of creatures we find. And I definitely wasn't disappointed on that mark. However, I was expecting that the movie would be another favorite. And I saw early reception, and I was like, wow, this is going to be an amazing movie. Everyone loves it. I can't wait to see it. And I saw it. And from the minute I sat down and started watching it, I was like, oh, shit. Because it just started off really kind of cheesy feeling. It was I don't know if it was the writing, the dialogue, the acting. I'm not sure what it was. But it just didn't feel real. I kind of equate it to the beginning half an hour of Star Wars. I sort of equate it to the first 30 minutes of the third Star Wars movie, Revenge of the Sith. Because that movie started off really cringy, and then it got really good. But Avatar 2 never gets really good in that regard. The whole time I'm just not feeling the characters. I'm not feeling the story. And I think there's a few things that sort of explain that. So the visuals in this movie are amazing. And I'm wondering if it's because in the first film, everyone loved the visuals so much, and they should. It was fantastic. But I'm curious, did that influence Avatar 2? Were they so focused on making it look amazing that they forgot to kind of pay the same amount of attention to the story and the characters? While they focused somewhere new and expanded the world, and that was super interesting, the plot was unbearably lazy. We had the resurrection of old characters. Why? There was no reason for this. They decided they needed the same villain as before. I don't understand why. They could have just had a new, military commander come in. It's not out of the realm of possibility that they sent another team to continue the work that the previous team did. Instead, they resurrected him through cloning, and it felt stupid. And then Sigourney Weaver's character came back too, and that felt really unnecessary. I don't really understand what they were thinking about there. Honestly, I never cared about anything that happened in this movie. And the focus on the children, especially in Avatar 2, compared to the first movie, it didn't work for me. I liked the two original characters, and then we just kind of forgot about them and really focus on the children. And the children are fucking stupid. They keep making the same mistakes. They don't listen. I mean, come on. You grow up in these hostile worlds. You should at least have some sort of knowledge on how this stuff works. I mean, I think there was only one emotional moment in the movie that I actually could call an emotional moment, and that was when the son dies. And even when the son died, it wasn't like I cared. I didn't feel anything. It happened. And you kind of feel bad for the parents. You feel bad for his siblings, but you don't actually feel. I didn't feel anything. I said, oh, cool, something happened. And it was kind of depressing because you want to feel. You want to have some sort of reaction when this thing happens. It was clearly set up to be an emotional moment, but it just didn't hit. And I think it was because the 2.5 hours before that moment, I didn't really care about them. There were so many plot conveniences to explain different things, and everything was just... It felt like the story was written without the characters in mind, and then they shaped the characters to fit the story, if that makes sense. And that's an odd way of writing. I'm sure that's not how it happened, but it felt that way. It felt like the character reactions... I don't know, it just felt like a new writer wrote the characters. It just didn't feel like the characters had any real motivation other than this is where we need the plot to go, so that's what we're going to do. And that sucks, but that's, a lot of movies nowadays seem to have that issue where it's like, I don't really feel for any of these characters. So that's too bad, but what can you do? So I think that's about my thoughts on Avatar and Avatar 2. If you agree or disagree, I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. I'd also wouldn't mind hearing any suggestions for hot takes topics. I would shoot for more general. I wouldn't say, can you give me your hot takes discussion on the movie Titanic? Because I don't really have a hot take. I guess I didn't really like that movie. I don't know if that's a hot take. But regardless, if you give me a specific thing, it's likely I haven't seen or consumed that media, and it's even more likely that I don't have a hot take on it. So more general stuff like, what was your least favorite popular video game or something general like that. I have a list of things that I'm going to be doing, but I'm always interested in taking suggestions. So just let me know what you think about Avatar 2, any suggestions. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and thanks for watching.